Greetings. Welcome to Context is Everything. Today I actually want to discuss a PBS NewsHour segment called Work Shift. Now, within the Work Shift segment, they featured Mike Rowe. I thoroughly enjoyed this segment because Mike Rowe, for those of you who do not know who Mike Rowe is, Mike Rowe actually had a show on Discovery Channel called Dirty Jobs. Now, within Dirty Jobs, it featured and highlighted Mike Rowe going across the country, looking at certain particular jobs that were undesirable or dirty or, unfavorable for most Americans. Now, within this segment, they talked about the stigma and stereotypes associated with blue collar jobs. Now, I want you to actually look at it, and based on, this American society we actually live in, blue collar jobs are really not that desirable when you ask people or take a quick survey. They're seen as, less desirable. They're seen as, only uneducated people have blue collar jobs, or people who just couldn't cut it in college. But I'm hoping this conversation actually sparks a paradigm shift on how we actually look at blue collar jobs. Now, when you actually look at a traditional institution, a person actually graduates high school. Now, your formative years, in your formative years, you're taught to, get good grades, graduate a traditional 4-year institution, and after you graduate the traditional 4-year institution, with your, specialized degree, that you will actually have a great job. But that is far from reality or the truth. Nowadays, people are starting to wake up and understand that college or a college degree, is it actually worth it? Think about the finances and debt associated with actually going to a 4-year institution. You kind of have to outweigh, the pros and cons. Think about it. You go to an institution for 4 years, and let's say, you take out $160,000 in debt. Now, is it actually worth the 4 years? Because let's say you graduate within 4, and then all of a sudden, you get a job, and let's say you get a job for $50,000. But when you actually look at the years invested, based on the return of investment, was it really worth it? And so I think, we need a paradigm shift, just because when you look at it in the formative years, we're taught to go to a traditional 4-year institution. From there, we'll get a great job that pays $150,000 to $200,000. Those jobs they're gone. They're not available anymore. I think people are starting to wake up a little, and they're actually starting to understand that the vocational route is the future. Now, back to the actual segment, I actually enjoyed it because they kind of highlighted a lot of different things associated with the blue collar job. First, blue collar jobs now are specialized jobs. So instead of going to a 4-year traditional university, programs in certain blue collar jobs may take a year to 2 years, or they might have a paid apprenticeship where, now you're getting paid and you're getting the training. And the flip side is there's no debt, or there are minimum debt associated with you actually learning this trade. And again, I think it needs to be a paradigm shift, and I think we need to have more of these conversations. Now, I actually really like Mike Rowe. One thing about Mike Rowe, lately he's been championing, this blue collar initiative, in the sense that, blue collar or the vocational route actually needs to be implemented into high school.
Skills gap is wider than it's ever been. 5.6 million jobs, according to the BLS. Vocational education is still missing from an overwhelming majority of high schools. Bills like the one before this committee still meet resistance in part because millions of Americans still view a career in the trades as some kind of vocational consolation prize. It's a bias, as misguided as any other prejudice with us today, and it poses a clear and present danger to our country's overall economic security.
And, you know, I think it's not because there still is a stigma, outdated, stagnant stigma associated with, you know, blue collar jobs. Like I said, you look it up. If you take surveys and you ask certain members, or you may ask the general public. Now, keep in mind, the general public is, you know, keep in mind the general public may not be as educated or informed. But, you know, when you look at plumbers, when you look at, you know, mechanics, when you look at electricians, here's the reality. Recently, you noticed that there was actually a winter storm in Texas. Who's in demand right now? Plumbers and electricians. And these are highly skilled trades that actually, you know, make six figures or more. And so, like, the reality is, what's happening is that now there are a lot of kids, there are a lot of students, once they graduate high school, you know, they actually go off to college, but with no real trajectory. A lot of times, what we don't understand is in undergraduate, we go for a skill, and for a master's, we actually specialize in whatever our degree is associated with. But to say that a lot of kids are actually going off to a four-year institution and they're really not getting return on their investment. And one thing I actually liked about the segment, part of the segment, you know, it was very brief, but they talked about, you know, African Americans. And I think we need to hear more of that discussion, because even when we talk about skilled trades, when we go back to slavery and, you know, Jim Crow, African Americans, black people, we had skilled trades. We had, you know, skilled trades. You know, we were blacksmiths. You know, we were plumbers. We were mechanics. We did construction. You know, we built the White House. And so it makes me think about a conversation I had with, you know, one of my best friends. And when I was an undergraduate, when I was in school, you know, I actually leaned toward W.E.B. Du Bois and the Talented Tenth. But what I actually realized growing up, you know, and, you know, years later, that now I actually see what Booker T. Washington was saying. Because when you actually have a skill, you can always feed your family. And I think the reality now is, like, with these 4-year degrees, you know, unless it's medicine or, you know, engineering, but there is a scarcity in the sense of real skills. You know, anything can be replaced now. But, you know, one thing you're always going to need, you're going to always need a plumber. You're going to always need an electrician. You're going to always need a mechanic for your car. So these skills are not going anywhere. These skills have been here since we've been here and since the Industrial Revolution. And so we have to actually understand that this should be the new normal and this should be the new pathway, blue collar jobs. But I actually want to get back to understanding the plight of black people associated with, you know, skilled labor. Within the segment, the woman actually discussed, you know, how there are not that many African Americans in her particular trade because it is looked down on or it is frowned. And, you know, I think it's a different generation because now, you know, we're in this new age, we're in this digital space where a lot of kids, you know, when you ask them to envision success, you know, they see themselves and, you know, I'm instantly going to graduate. I'm instantly going to have that Ferrari. You know, I'm going to be on IG. I'm going to be IG famous or, you know, just social media famous. You know, maybe a professional athlete. When you ask them about, you know, plumbing or being an electrician or, you know, being a welder or, you know, construction or HVAC, different things like that. They're lost. That they don't see that. Again, it's not a glamorous job, but I think the reality is these skills actually pay the bills, and because it is a niche market, I think that a lot of people are not understanding that people are actually building wealth with these actual skill jobs. And I really think it's unfortunate because this actually needs to be taught. I think we do need more vocational jobs. I also think we need to put an emphasis in the African American community about certain tracks again, like, plumbing, or these quote unquote, we need to make these quote unquote undesirable jobs. We need to, romanticize them and glamorize them because although, when I look at like HVAC, yes, you have to dig in attics, or yes, you might have to go inside an attic, but, to actually get a air conditioner installed, it might be between $6,000 to $10,000. Again, like plumbing, like the winter storm just happened, pipes burst. Some people are going to have to pay thousands on top of thousands of dollars to get this fixed. Here's the reality: as long as you have a skill, you will always be able to feed your family. So you have to understand that. Again, as it relates to being black and the void of actual real skill. And, I look at it going back to W.B. Du Bois and the Talented Tenth. I think, what happened is we kind of abandoned the notion of, the skilled labor. And then, we actually brought into like this, I'm not going to call it a myth, but this notion that, hey, if I'm classically trained, that, I'll be able to, ascend. But, the reality is the ascension slowed down, or, it was a myth within itself. Because when you look at it, like I said, we as African Americans are actually, we have no skill. When you look at specific fields, we don't represent that. Now, historically, part of the reason we don't represent that too is because when unions were created to actually keep black people out, economically. And so we have been cast aside, and, in reality, to rejuvenate this sense of vocational track. And like I said, you blow it up or something, you're going to always need a plumber. Like I said, your lights go out, or something happens, you're going to always need an electrician. And I think, when you look at return on investment in regards to debt, is college even worth it anymore? And I'm going to be real, I feel like college is a game now. College is actually, starting to be more and more expensive. And the reality is, there are thousands of kids that are graduating colleges and universities each year. And, it's hard, it's COVID. Again, jobs are scarce right now, and the reality, even if you do have a degree and you end up getting a job, your job can easily be replaced by, someone younger than you, or a computer or technology. And so, I just think I enjoy this segment. I think we do need to focus more on blue collar jobs. And like I said, I think we need to change the stereotypes, because again, like I look at it and, I look at a lot of mechanics, and, that's the thing, cars always need maintenance or repair. And I'm looking at it like, as I see my mechanic, my mechanic service at least 30 cars per day. And, I'm not trying to count anyone's pockets or anything, but I'm like, these are skills that are actually needed, or, morticians, or, like certain things that require skill and some training, some college, some information, some license, some certification. And like I said, I think, I think parents need to talk to their kids a little earlier now and kind of let them. I think parents actually need to talk to their children and have them understand and educate them on the different choices. Like, again, trade school. When I was growing up, I even remember in high school, trade school. It was a secondary thought. It was frowned upon. It was looked down to. And I'm looking at these same people. These people, they didn't go to college. They didn't take on all this debt. And so, be a new paradigm shift. I think we need to rethink how we think about success in America. And I also think we need to be realistic. Most people want to be entertainers, but that's just not a reality. Like, we need something practical. And I think practical should be the new normal. I also think that, we have to debunk and deconstruct these negative stereotypes associated with blue collar jobs. If you enjoy this video, please leave a comment, please like, please share, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Context is everything.